The Exorcist is the film that made grown adults faint in the aisles. 50 years on, it is still called the scariest movie ever made. But the version you watched was almost a very different film. Did you know the man who wrote it left the premiere sure the wrong side had won? Did you know a hidden face was slipped into the film to scare you, without you ever seeing it? Today, we're uncovering 15 hidden truths about The Exorcist, 1973. That includes a shocking secret connection to the Halloween movies. Number 1. The ending the writer never forgave. The version of The Exorcist you have seen ends on a quiet, sad note. Father Dyer stands at the top of the Georgetown steps where Father Karras died. He looks down, then he turns and walks away. That was director William Friedkin's choice. He wanted the ending cold and open. But the man who wrote the story hated it. William Peter Blatty wrote both the novel and the screenplay, was a devout Catholic, and viewed the film as a tale of faith triumphing over evil. After the premiere, he told a friend, "Can you believe that people think Satan won?" Friedkin had trimmed his original 2-hour and 20-minute cut down to a tight 2 hours, over Blatty's objections. Blatty begged him for years to restore the lost footage. After 27 years, Friedkin finally agreed, saying it was not easy to admit he had been wrong. In 2000, a new cut called The Version You've Never Seen restored an alternate ending where Chris keeps the dead priest's medal instead of handing it back, and a detective named Kinderman meets Father Dyer, and the two lonely men strike up a friendship. Same movie. One small change at the end, and suddenly good has clearly won. The two men did not speak for years over that cut. In the end, they made peace. Number 2. It really happened. Most people think The Exorcist came purely from imagination. It did not. In 1949, William Peter Blatty was a 21-year-old student at the Jesuit-run Georgetown College when he came across an article in the Washington Post about the exorcism of a young boy. Priests performed that ritual over many weeks. The case involved a boy known publicly as Roland Doe, and it inspired Blatty to retell the events, first as a novel, then as the screenplay. That newspaper story stuck in his mind for more than 20 years. When he finally wrote the book, he changed the possessed victim to a young girl and moved the story, partly at the request of the priest, who performed the real exorcism, to hide the identity of the young man. So the head spinning and the shaking on screen are invented. But the seed was a real report about a real family who believed something evil had entered their home. That is the part that keeps people up at night. The scariest movie ever made did not start in a writer's nightmare. It started on the front page of a newspaper. Number 3. The demon was a woman with a bag of raw eggs. Linda Blair is the face of the possessed girl. But she is not the voice. That growling demon voice belongs to Mercedes McCambridge, who provided the dubbed voice of the demon possessing Regan. She was a serious talent and an Academy Award winner from years before. To make the demon sound inhuman, she put herself through torture. She insisted on swallowing raw eggs, chain-smoking, and drinking whiskey to make her voice harsh, and Friedkin arranged for her to be bound to a chair so the demon seemed to struggle against restraints. The result is one of the most frightening sounds in movie history. Then came the ugly part. When the film came out, her name was left off it. Friedkin said she had asked for no credit. McCambridge said that was not true. She said Friedkin had promised her a special credit, and then broke his promise, calling it heartbreaking when a friend does that. Her dispute with Friedkin and Warner Brothers ended only when, with the help of the Screen Actors Guild, she was properly credited. The devil, it turns out, had to fight for her own screen credit. Number 4. The vomit hit the wrong target. One image from The Exorcist is burned into everyone's memory. The possessed girl turns her head and sprays green vomit right into the face of Father Karras. Fans still argue about how they did it. The truth is almost funny. The green goo was pea soup. The crew tried Campbell's brand first, did not like the effect, and switched to Anderson's pea soup mixed with a little oatmeal. Then they built a tube system to shoot it out on cue. Here is the twist. The soup was supposed to hit actor Jason Miller in the chest, but the plastic tubing misfired and hit him square in the face instead. The shock and disgust you see on screen are completely real. He was not acting. He was genuinely stunned that he had just been blasted in the mouth. Some of the most horrifying seconds in the movie are really just an actor reacting to a plumbing mistake. The scariest vomit in film history was an accident with a can of soup. Number 5. The film that death followed home. There is a reason people call The Exorcist cursed. Actress Ellen Burstyn later said there were around 9 deaths during the course of the film, an incredible number that she found scary. The count is chilling. Jack McGowan played a director who is killed by the demon in the story, and he died of flu complications in New York shortly after appearing in the film, at only 54. Vasiliki Maliaros, who played Karas's mother, also died before the film was released. Then the losses spread. Linda's grandfather died, an assistant cameraman's baby died, and the night watchman who took care of the building was shot and killed. Not everyone believes in a curse. Max von Sydow put it plainly, saying that if you don't believe in the devil, you don't believe in curses. But even he admitted the run of tragedy was hard to shake. For a movie about death and evil, real death seemed to be paying very close attention. Number 6. The fire that spared one room. Before the cameras could really get going, disaster struck. Early one Sunday morning, a fire broke out on the set. The reproduction of the Georgetown home built in a New York studio, and it shut down filming for 6 weeks while the set was rebuilt from scratch. The reported cause was a bad electrical circuit. One account says a bird flew into the circuit box and caused the entire set of the house to burn to the ground, except for Reagan's room. Let that detail sink in. When the smoke cleared, the one room left standing was the haunted bedroom where the demon does its worst. The delay was just one of many. A 10-foot demon statue meant for the shoot got lost in an air shipment and ended up in Hong Kong, causing yet another delay. Some in the cast started to wonder what they had gotten into. Friedkin even invited the film's priest consultant to bless everyone on the set. When your horror movie set catches fire, and only the demon's room is left, it is hard to blame people for getting scared. Number 7. The movie almost had completely different faces. It is impossible to imagine anyone else in The Exorcist now. But the cast we know was far from the first choice. Jack Nicholson was considered for the priest Karras, Paul Newman was interested, and Blatty actually hired Stacy Keach before the role went to Jason Miller. For the mother, 3 major stars were all in the running. Audrey Hepburn, Anne Bancroft, and Jane Fonda were each considered for Chris, but rejected the part. For the old Exorcist, the studio pushed hard for a legend. Warner Brothers wanted Marlon Brando for Father Merrin, but Friedkin refused, and cast Max von Sydow instead. Even the director's chair was a battle. Many directors were considered, including Stanley Kubrick and Arthur Penn, and the studio finally hired Mark Rydell, but Blatty insisted on Friedkin after being impressed by the French connection. Think about that. The scariest film ever made was one phone call away from starring Jack Nicholson and being directed by the man behind 2001. Sometimes the magic is in the near miss. Number 8. The director fired guns to scare his own cast. William Friedkin did not believe in faking fear. He wanted it real, and he had wild ways of getting it. He ordered a props worker to fire shotgun blanks randomly, to keep the actors on edge and produce genuinely terrified looks on their faces. He worked with a real Jesuit priest, William O'Malley, who played Father Dyer. In one emotional scene, Friedkin reportedly felt the priest was too stiff, so he slapped him across the face right before the take to shake something loose. Friedkin also kept the whole production grinding through 6-day weeks and 12-hour days for 9 months, and used a prop gun to get genuine reactions. Some people admired it, some never forgave him, but almost everyone agreed it worked. A lot of the panic on those faces is not great acting. It is real people being genuinely startled by a director who would do almost anything for a better shot. He treated his own actors a little like the demon treated the priests. Number 9. 2 of the stars were really hurt. The pain in The Exorcist was not all makeup. Ellen Burstyn injured her lower back during a stunt where the possessed girl knocks her to the floor, telling Friedkin the wire was pulling her too hard before the man smashed her into the floor, leaving her with a long-term injury. Young Linda Blair had it just as bad. Blair fractured her lower back while thrashing around strapped into a rig on the bed, and she later said the injury was far more serious than she imagined and affected her health for a long time. She was only a child. So when you watch the girl convulse on that bed, remember a real kid was being thrown around inside that shaking contraption. The screams of pain in some of those scenes did not need much acting at all. The movie hurt the people who made it. Number 10. They froze the set until you could see their breath. When the demon takes hold, you can see the breath of everyone in Reagan's bedroom. Those thick clouds of fog are not a special effect. They are real. Friedkin had the actors working in a room chilled to around 20 degrees below zero to capture authentic foggy breaths. The crew bundled up in heavy winter coats to survive the day. Now think about who had to act in that room. The freezing temperatures were especially hard on Linda Blair, because the other cast and crew wore protective clothing, while she mostly wore a thin nightgown. She lay on that bed in brutal cold, hour after hour, take after take. The shivering you sometimes see is not pretend. That frozen air gave the film one of its creepiest touches, all those ghostly breaths hanging in the dark. It came at a real cost to a child who could not feel her feet. The most haunting detail in the room was also the most miserable to film. Number 11. The Halloween Star Who Got Away. Here is the secret connection that ties The Exorcist to another horror giant. When Friedkin was searching for his possessed girl, one young actress nearly auditioned. Her name was Jamie Lee Curtis. Curtis has said thank God her mother did not let her audition for The Exorcist at age 12, because her mom wanted her to have a childhood. Her mother was Janet Leigh, the actress famous for being stabbed in the shower in Psycho. Leigh did not want her daughter spending her childhood playing a girl who does unspeakable things. So Curtis never took the part. A few years later, she made her big break in a different horror movie. That film was Halloween, and it turned her into the most famous scream queen in the world. Stop and picture the switch. If her mother had said yes, Curtis might have been the face of The Exorcist, and the role of Laurie Strode might have gone to someone else entirely. Two of the scariest films ever made were linked by one mother's decision to protect her kid. The girl who dodged one demon became the queen of horror anyway. Number 12. The Face Hidden in Plain Sight. The Exorcist plays a nasty trick on your eyes, and most people never catch it. Scattered through the film are quick flashes of a white, ghoulish demon face with hollow eyes. According to fan tracking of the film, the white-faced demon briefly flashes on screen about 45 minutes in, during a dream sequence involving Father Karras. It is there and gone in an instant, too fast to really register, but just slow enough for your brain to feel it. Fans call this face Captain Howdy. The strange part is where it came from. Friedkin has said the subliminal shots of the white-faced demon were actually rejected makeup tests for Reagan's possessed appearance. He liked the leftover image so much that he slipped it into the movie to unsettle you below the level of thinking. It works. Many people leave the film deeply disturbed without knowing exactly why. Part of the answer flashed at them for a fraction of a second. You can hunt for it yourself on a rewatch. Pause near the 45-minute mark and stare. Something is hiding in your favorite horror movie, and it has been staring back the whole time. Number 13. The Name That Points at a Missing Father. There is a fan theory about The Exorcist that changes how you see the whole story. When the demon first talks to Reagan through a Ouija board, she does not call it a demon. She calls it Captain Howdy. For years, viewers wondered where such an odd name came from. Then people noticed something. Captain Howdy is a play on Howard, the name of Regan's father, who had left her and her mother before the events of the film. The theory goes like this. The absent father likely left the young Regan looking for a surrogate, and when she contacts the demon, it introduces itself as Howdy to emulate her father and exploit her vulnerability. The film never spells this out. It may just be a coincidence in the writing. But once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. The horror stops being only about the supernatural. It becomes about a broken family and a lonely child left wide open. The scariest monsters do not break down the door. They walk in, wearing the face of someone you miss. Number 14. The sound of the demon leaving is pigs. Sound is where The Exorcist truly gets under your skin, and one choice is grimmer than fans expect. Near the climax, the demon is forced out of the girl. On the soundtrack, the sound of the demon leaving Regan's body is actually the sound of pigs being herded for slaughter. The squealing of frightened animals became the shrieking of the fleeing evil. But the choice was not random. It alludes to a story in the New Testament, where Jesus casts out several demons, collectively called Legion, and transfers them into pigs, which then drown. The film quietly nods to that ancient story. The demon that calls itself many things is driven out, just like the demons named Legion. Most viewers never know why the exit sounds so awful. They just feel it in their gut. That is the whole trick of this movie. It reaches for the oldest fears and the oldest stories, then hides them inside sounds you cannot quite place. The demon does not just leave the girl. It runs screaming into scripture. Number 15. The horror film that broke every rule. When The Exorcist arrived, nobody was ready. Audiences did not just watch it. Audiences reported fainting and vomiting. One woman blamed a miscarriage on the film, and it was protested in some cities and banned in parts of the United Kingdom. And yet the crowds only grew. The film had a production budget of about $12 million and famously cost far more than planned, yet went on to become one of the top-grossing films of all time. It has earned a lifetime gross of $441 million at the box office. Then it did something no horror film had done before. It became the first horror film nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture. And Blatty won Best Adapted Screenplay, while the sound engineers took Best Sound. A movie people called sick and shocking was suddenly sitting with Hollywood's finest. That is the strange power of The Exorcist. It scared people half to death, and they respected it anyway. It proved horror could be great art. Underneath the vomit and the screaming, The Exorcist is really about a mother who will do anything to save her child, and a priest hunting for something to believe in. So here is our question. If that were your child in the bed, would you call a doctor or a priest? Tell us below. Then subscribe, because every week we dig up the secrets Hollywood buried in the films you thought you knew.